What if I told you that there is an entire country that you will never find on any official map? A territory with more than 30 million people, its own language, army, parliament, and even a flag. They have faced empires, been erased from treaties, survived massacres, civil wars, and even helped defeat the Islamic State. That's right, Saddam Hussein launched chemical weapons on entire cities in this region, and it was Kurdish women who faced and defeated the Islamic State when no one else could. Even so, the world continues to pretend they don't exist. Have you ever heard of Kurdistan? If not, that's okay. That's why today Bello Mundo is crossing mountains, borders, and centuries of history to tell you who the Kurds are, what this Kurdistan is all about, and how these people continue to resist with dance, sweet tea, and a stubbornness that intimidates even their enemies. Number 1. Location and general information. So, where is Kurdistan? If you open a political map of the world, you won't find it. Kurdistan is not a recognized country, but it exists, not on paper, but as a land inhabited, defended, and claimed by millions of people. This region lies in the heart of the Middle East, occupying a strip that runs from southeastern Turkey to northern Iraq, also passing through western Iran and northern Syria. 4 different countries divide what the Kurds see as a single homeland. Most live in Turkey, about 15 million. In Iran, there are 6 million. In Iraq, 5 million. And in Syria, about 2 million. The numbers vary. Where there is no country, there is usually no accurate census. And no, Kurdistan is not just sand and heat. The region is mountainous, with a climate that changes with altitude. 2 mountain ranges run through it, the Taurus Mountains in southern Turkey and the Zagros Mountains in Iran. Some peaks are over 3,000 meters high and accumulate snow in winter. In northern Iraq, especially near Erbil, beyond the mountains, there are oak forests, rivers, waterfalls, and landscapes reminiscent of Swiss postcards, until a rusty tank on the side of the road reminds us where we are. Further down, in the plains, the heat dominates. Even so, it was there that the Kurds built villages, grew wheat, and raised their herds. It is also where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers are born, which have been irrigating the land for millennia. These mountains are not just scenery, they have been a place of shelter and resistance. That is why Kurdistan is known as the land of the mountain people, an expression that comes from Kurti, a Sumerian term that already meant people of the mountains. And now that you understand where this land is, it's time to learn about the Kurds who live there. Number 2. Who are the Kurds? The Kurds are an ancient people, and when we say ancient, we mean ancient. They have been there for thousands of years. They still do not have a recognized country, but they maintain a strong identity that spans generations. They are not Arabs, Turks, or Persians. They are Kurds. And this is not just a matter of ethnicity, it is a way of life. They speak their own language, have traditions, dances, rituals, everything with a Kurdish way of being. As for their origins, some say that the Kurds are descended from the Medes, an ancient people who lived in that region and even founded an empire there in the 7th century BC. Whether this is true or not, no one knows for sure. But the Kurds themselves like this connection, because it reinforces the idea that they have always been there. For centuries, they lived under the rule of empires, such as the Ottoman Empire, which controlled much of the Middle East until the early 20th century. Even so, they maintained a certain autonomy in villages and tribes, with their own leaders, local customs, and a language they never stopped speaking. It was this silent resistance that kept the Kurdish identity alive. And yes, they also left their mark in the history books. One of the most famous names in the Islamic world, Saladin, was Kurdish. He was the leader who recaptured Jerusalem during the Crusades and is still remembered today as a symbol of honor and military strategy. In other words, the Kurds have always been there. With or without a country, they have never ceased to exist. Now that you know where Kurdistan is and who the Kurds are, let's get to the big question. But if the Kurds have been there forever, why have they never formed a country? To understand this, we need to delve into the struggles and broken promises, which we will see in the next topic. Number 3. History. As we mentioned earlier, until the beginning of the 20th century, the Kurds still had a certain degree of autonomy within the Ottoman Empire. They lived in their own regions, spoke their own language, and followed their own customs, even though they were part of an empire that ruled much of the Middle East. But that changed with the end of World War I. The empire was dismantled, and powers such as France and the United Kingdom redrew the map of the region. In 1920, the Treaty of Sèvres even proposed a Kurdish state, but the new Turkish government rejected the agreement. 3 years later, a new treaty emerged and simply ignored this people. The territory was divided between Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria. The chance for a country disappeared. From then on, the Kurds became a minority in countries that tried to deny even their existence. In Turkey, the Kurdish language was banned. They were even called Mountain Turks, as if they were an invention. The repression was so severe that in the 80s the PKK emerged, an armed Kurdish group that fought against the Turkish government. The conflict left tens of thousands dead, so much so that the Turkish government considers the group a terrorist organization. But for many Kurds, this group represents resistance. In Iran, history followed a similar path. In 1946, the Kurds even declared the so-called Republic of Mahabad, a temporary Kurdish state. It lasted less than a year. The government destroyed everything. Since then, the repression has continued. In Saddam Hussein's Iraq, the persecution was brutal, with chemical attacks, which we will discuss in detail shortly. In Syria, the Kurds took advantage of the civil war to occupy space. They created the Rojava region with its own administration. They were decisive against the Islamic State, but Turkey did not like it and invaded parts of the territory. Once again, autonomy hung by a thread. For all this, the Kurds repeat a phrase: "We have no friends but the mountains." And honestly, it's hard to disagree, isn't it? Still, they remain steadfast. Even without a country, they have a parliament, defense forces, a language, an anthem, and a flag. Red, white, and green, with a golden sun in the center. The sun represents Nowruz, the Kurdish New Year. In many places, raising this flag is a political act, but for them, it represents something greater. The country that has not yet been born, but that has never ceased to exist in the hearts of the people. And since Kurdistan does not live only by fighting, now is the time to learn about what keeps it all going, the culture, rituals, and customs that span generations. Number 4. Culture and traditions. Even though they are scattered across several countries, the Kurds maintain customs and rituals that form a strong identity. It appears in their clothes, dances, festivals, and even in the way they welcome visitors. The traditional clothing immediately catches the eye. At any celebration, it steals the show. Women wear long embroidered dresses in bright colors and shiny veils. Men wear loose pants, sashes around their waists, and turbans that vary by region: red and white in Iraq, dark blue in Iran. In everyday life, many wear modern clothes, but at parties, the traditional look dominates. Speaking of celebrations, if there is one event that every Kurd makes a point of celebrating, it is Nowruz, their new year. which is celebrated on March 21st. The date marks the beginning of spring and, more than that, represents freedom. Legend has it that on that day, a blacksmith named Karwa overthrew a tyrannical king and lit bonfires in the mountains to announce that the people were free. To this day, this tradition lives on, even in places where it is forbidden, such as Turkey. In everyday life, the value that Kurds place on hospitality is impressive. There is a saying that goes, "A guest is sent by God." And they take this seriously. Visitors are treated like family, with food, tea, a place to sit, and, if necessary, a place to sleep. At night, in the villages, it is common to see tea circles. The men smoke hookah and talk about politics or farming. The women take care of the children, exchange recipes, and keep the household running. Life in the mountains is hard, with harsh winters and limited agriculture, but no one goes without. If one harvests less, the other helps. This community spirit comes from afar, from the days when the Kurds lived organized in clans and tribes, and even in cities, this sense of group remains strong. Number 5. Kurdish cuisine. Now that we've talked about traditions, it's time for the tastiest part, the food. Kurdish cuisine reflects the environment in which they live. Mountains, plantations, pastures. It is a hearty cuisine with lots of meat, grains, vegetables, yogurt, and bread. It is somewhat reminiscent of Persian, Turkish, and Arabic cuisine, but always with its own unique touch. A very common dish is dolmas, grape leaves, cabbage, or vegetables, such as zucchini and bell peppers stuffed with rice, meat, and spices. Another favorite is Kurdish biryani, a variation on the Asian dish. It is colored rice with chicken, carrots, almonds, and raisins. And of course, bread. Kurds love that flat bread, similar to Syrian or naan bread, always freshly baked. They say that the first breads in human history appeared in the region of Mesopotamia, the ancestral homeland of the Kurds. So it makes sense that bread is almost sacred to them. Meals follow the Eastern style. They are eaten on the floor, on rugs, with everyone sitting around trays. Eating with your hands is common, and bread serves as cutlery. And yes, there is always tea. The drink accompanies long conversations, unexpected visits, and any break in the day. When it comes to dessert, they follow the regional style, based on honey, dates, walnuts, pistachios, sesame, and spices such as cardamom and saffron. The most famous is baklava, with layers of puff pastry, honey, and pistachios. The sweets are almost always served with very sweet black tea, a simple combination, but one that ends any meal with a taste of home. Number 6. Religion and diversity of beliefs. Religion among Kurds is as varied as the places where they live. There is no single faith. What exists is a mixture of beliefs that has formed over time, according to the country, coexistence with other peoples, and the traditions of each region. Most Kurds are Sunni Muslims, mainly in parts of Turkey, Syria, and Iran. But even among Sunnis, Kurds tend to have their own customs, with festivals, rituals, and habits that blend religion with the traditions of the people. There are also Shiite Kurds, who are more prevalent in Iran and some areas of Iraq. One religious group that stands out is the Yazidis. They have their own ancient religion, which blends elements of Zoroastrianism, Christianity, and Islam. They believe in a creator god and 7 angels, the most important of which is the peacock angel. The sacred temple of the Yazidis is located in Laylish in northern Iraq and is one of their most important spiritual centers. There are also Christian Kurds and even Jews, but in much smaller numbers. Many Christians follow Eastern churches, such as the Assyrian or Orthodox churches, and many ended up leaving their lands because of persecution or conflict. Ultimately, what unites the Kurds is not religion. It is their sense of belonging to the land where they were born. Number 7. Saddam Hussein. Among all the most painful moments in Kurdish history, none is as striking as what happened in Iraq in the final years of Saddam Hussein's dictatorship. In 1988, the Iraqi government launched Operation Anfal, a military offensive that lasted months and directly targeted Kurds living in the north of the country. It was presented as a campaign against rebels, but in practice, it turned into a systematic attack on civilians. The most tragic episode took place on March 16th in the Kurdish city of Halabja. Iraqi planes dropped bombs containing toxic gases on the population. People fell to the streets, unable to breathe. Those who tried to hide in basements suffocated as the gas descended and accumulated at the bottom of the houses. It is estimated that between 3,000 and 205,000 people died that day, most of them civilians, including women, children, and the elderly. Thousands survived with serious sequelae, respiratory problems, skin burns, and diseases that continue to affect the population to this day. And that city was only part of the tragedy. During the entire operation, around 4,000 villages were destroyed, a veritable circus of horrors. It is estimated that between 50,000 and 100,000 Kurds lost their lives. It was only after the Gulf War in 1991 that the Iraqi Kurds achieved a degree of autonomy. With international support, they took control of part of the north of the country. The autonomous region of Iraqi Kurdistan was born with its own government and parliament. Today, there is a memorial in Halabja. There are photos of the victims, toys, clothes, and objects that remained from that day. For the Kurds, this is not just a memory, it is a living wound, and it helps to understand why the quest for security and independence is still so urgent for them. Number 8. Kurdish Women. When talking about Muslim-majority countries, many people immediately think of the limitations imposed on women, such as the mandatory wearing of the veil, rules of behavior, and well-defined domestic roles. And yes, this exists in many places, but Kurdish women escape this easy stereotype, because there they can be seen both cooking in a village and in uniform, carrying a rifle on the front lines. And both images are real. In more traditional regions of Kurdistan, such as rural areas of Turkey or Iran, patriarchal customs still prevail. Arranged marriages, separation of roles, and strong family control. Women are expected to take care of the home and children and to dress and behave modestly. But this changes considerably in other parts of Kurdish territory, such as northern Syria and Iraq, where women have gained ground in universities, trade unions, NGOs, and parliaments. In autonomous regions such as Rojava, a system of co-leadership has been adopted. Every position of power is shared between a man and a woman. It was there that the YPJ, Women's Protection Units, emerged as a symbol of female resistance in the 21st century. In 2014 and 2015, with the brutal advance of the Islamic State, many armies retreated. But these Kurdish women went to the front lines and won. In uniform, with scarves around their necks and long braids, they challenged not only the extremist group, but also all stereotypes about the role of women in war. While the radicals promoted terror, especially against Yazidi women, it was women who led the resistance. It was a fight against terror and against centuries of oppression. Their motto says it all: Jin, Jiyan, Azadi. Woman, life, freedom. Number 9. current situation and challenges. Today, the Kurds remain where they have always been, between borders, trying to exist. Some live in villages hidden in the mountains. Others live in large cities in countries that insist on denying their identity. Some are in war zones, others are in exile. There are more than 30 million people scattered across very different places, from Turkey to Germany, from Iraq to Canada. They live amid achievements and setbacks, autonomy and repression, hope and frustration. For some, the future looks promising. For others, it's just another day trying not to disappear. It's not easy, but if there's one tough people, it's the Kurds. The mere survival of Kurdish identity after everything they've been through is already a daily victory. And so we end another journey, this time through the mountains, borders, and stories of the Kurdish people. Now tell us, what caught your attention the most? Had you heard of Kurdistan before? Leave your opinion in the comments. We really want to know what you think about this reality that rarely appears in the news. If you like exploring what the world tries to hide, discovering powerful stories and little-known cultures, stay with us. There is still so much to discover, and Bello Mundo will take you to every corner. Thank you for joining us so far, and see you at the next destination.